Okay, so moving on, we're gonna talk about curves now. It's gonna be really short. There's only a couple of things that you want to know about curves here. First is always know the heading, the start and the end. Okay, always know that this is the start and this is the end. Keep that in mind first. Second, uh, always every time you make a curve for hair, you want to make sure that you change it, you rebuild it, and that's going to be under surfaces, edit curves, rebuild curve, and just look for a number where your curve doesn't change so much. Now that's going to keep them evenly spaced, but it's also a number, that number that you pick, you got to be careful about. The more spans you have, the more CVs you have, the more loose the hair is. I'm going to write that down. More spans equals silky hair. Okay? Less spans equals gel. Okay, yeah. I hope you understand what I mean. So that's a number that you got to be careful about, because the more spans you have, when it comes to the simulation, it will get softer or it'll get more hard, more solid, more rigid, more gel-like. And the last thing is adjusting and moving your curves, and it's just a technique that you can find under edit curves, modify lock length. So if you select this, then the length of this guy is locked, and that allows you to do interesting things with this, maybe more complex shapes, or you can style your hair. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get used to it, it's kind of cool. And you can always select other curves and adjust those, or you can press B and just adjust a whole bunch of them. Okay? And the reason I'm mentioning that is because there is a shortcut to that under hair. Hair, modify curves. You'll see these guys that are under hair. Edit curves, modify curves, they're right there as well. Okay, so you can lock the length, you can straighten the curves, or you can curl the curves, and you can change the values. You can also bend your curves. You can smooth the curves. So there's a lot of little things you can do. Okay, so that's just different ways of adjusting curves. And another thing to note about curves is that, and that has to do with dynamics to an extent, is that if you had a geometry, so I'm just gonna have this curve here, right? And I'm just gonna have I don't know, let's say this guy here. Actually, no, I'm gonna make another curve. And extrude, right? And delete the history. So if I move that curve, it's not deforming this guy. Okay? Well, another thing you can do with curves is you can make what's a type of deformer that's called a curved, I think it's called a curve deformer. That's going to be under animations, create deformers. I'm sorry, wire tool. There you go. So with the wire tool, what you do is you select the object and you press enter, and then you select the curve and you press enter. and if that curve deforms, it's going to deform the object. Now you can see it's not deforming it so much. That's because the wire, which is right here, when you have the curve selected under outputs, you'll see the wire, there's a drop-off distance. If you increase that drop-off distance, then now it covers the area, and then this curve can deform that object. Okay, and that's a technique that you can apply to other things in regards to hair. I mean, you don't necessarily need to make dynamic hair. You can just mix different techniques individually, especially with planes, not with something that's solid like that. Okay, so those are some of the principles for curves. I have my lock length and non-lock length as as shelf items, so it's easier for me. So now it's no longer there, or I can check it and now it's back again. Okay, alrighty. So I think those are some of the main attributes here. That's just because a lot of the styling you're gonna end up doing with curves. One more thing to point out is that if you have, let's say, a NURBS surface, so I'm just gonna go ahead and create a NURBS plane. Just gonna scale it up. If you add isoparms to this guy, you can, under the surfaces, edit NURBS, duplicate surface curves. Let's see if I find it. There we go. Nope. Sorry. Edit curves, duplicate surface curves. And that gives you curves out of that guy. So I hope that makes sense, because if this guy was like that, then you can see those guys over there. And they're moving because I haven't deleted the history or anything. Okay? So that's important. One last one is if you have a curve selected, under Edit Curves, you can offset curve, and what that's going to do is going to offset that curve by whatever distance you have here. So there we go. If I make it less, then or more, it's going to offset based on the normal angle of the curve. Okay, so keep those guys in mind. I'm sure there's a lot more, but not that I can think of right now. So I'll see you a little bit later with the next part, which is paint effects. Okay, see you. Bye.